welcome to Clamp, the Creating, Living, and Making Projects podcast. I'm your host, Grant Alexander, and joining me, as always, is Adam Mackey. Unfortunately, this week, Jessie is traveling for work and she can't join us. So we're lucky enough to have another pot-smoking maker to join us this week. He hails from the forgotten province of New Brunswick, and he's the latest addition to the Work For It podcast. Some say he's a bit too chill, but I think when he's around, it's never a dill moment. It's Nick Tobin from a.k.a. Pickle Cutters. Welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Oh, it's, not much, man. Not much. It's been a. Why don't you, before we get into the podcast, why don't you tell everyone, kind of what you do and who you are?
All right. Well, to start off with, Pickle is my nickname, so that's why Pickle Cutters, but a.k.a. Nick Tobin. I'm from Clare, New Brunswick. It's a little parish that's lost in the middle of nowhere, up on the northern Maine border, right across from Fort Kent, Maine. And I started bladesmithing when COVID hit. I lost my job. I went to the shop and was dicking around with making handles for axe heads that I was restoring. And then I kind of got bored with that real quick. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to flatten the curve by like kicking it out in the woods. I'm going to go bug out for 2 weeks. I'm going to bushcraft my way out into the forest back here. And I'm going to make a knife and make my own tool. So that's pretty much how that all started. And
Nice.
Going on 4 years later, I am now making all my own steel. You know, I got my shop. I put an extension on that. I've been expanding on tools as well, too, and equipment. So, kind of trying to move it up as far as I can with what I have, so always
And
trying
now
to
this is your full-time job now.
Yes, it's been since day one. Yeah, since the first knife I sold, it's been a full-time job. Like literally, like nice. I posted that first knife I made, I sold it for $35, and and she still has it, and she didn't even want to like sell it back. And I was like, I'll make you a brand new one for it. And she's like, nope. Yeah, so I got that started that way on Facebook, just sharing all my work to my personal page, and started off with a lot of local people, and then I started getting into the groups on Facebook for resources, and then I started getting noticed there by collectors and buyers and shit, and I pretty much started hard on Facebook right off the bat for me. Like my first year, I had like 150 knives made. And I was blown away by that. I was like, who makes 150 knives in their first year? I won't make 150 knives this year because the first 150 knives I made were the attention to detail is a lot different today than it was then.
Man.
So, and the steel that I make and everything. So like I work on 5 knives. I'm like 2 weeks. Like it's a different ball game now, which I enjoy.
It is, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit later, but it is amazing the difference between like the more you know, the less you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we get into the kind of the main topic, we like to start our podcast off talking about what we've been working on this week. So since you're already talking, Nick, why don't you take it off?
I am finishing off a batch of knives. I got a mix of some laminated steel that I made here and some mono steel as well too. A couple of my PK Little Rivers, bead blast finish, basic handles, nothing special. And then I got a big billet that I made of some 200-year-old buggy wheel wrought iron, some pure nickel silver and 1084 at the core. And I ended up, pulling up a pretty big bar from it, so I had enough to make 3 knives, and these 3 knives are like 3 of them were available, but now there's only 2 available, and so I'm finishing those up. And I was actually working on that last one on the handle, and I looked at the time and I was like, oh shit, it was 5 of, and I was like, I got to get to my laptop ASAP, so I shut down the shop real quick, and I'm in here all dirty and dusty. But other than that, I got a few other things going on too. I was Hellraiser Barbecue reached out to me, and I'm working on a leftover of a series that they had started last year, and the previous maker got out of knife making, and they had 11 knives left on the bench, after everything was done and said. So some 11 blanks, and they sent those out to me, and I'm going to finish those off. And once that's all done and said, there's a potential for another 100 knives after that. So
are those Are those, so I heard you talking about those on Work For It before. Are those just like stock removal knives?
Yeah, straight up stock removal, like laser cut, everything just ready for heat treat and grinds and a handle. I'm finishing up these last 11, like the first 100 would have been done, but then going into the second round of 100, if I do jump into it, we're redesigning and we're going to change things up to try to make it quicker.
As someone that knows nothing about knife making, what is a stock removal knife?
Excuse me, that kind of got choppy on me and I didn't quite hear you.
Oh, I said, as someone that doesn't know anything about knife making, what is a stock removal knife?
Stock removal is taking like a straight up bar of stock material, say like 1/8 of an inch by 2 inches wide, and take 16-inch piece and draw a chef knife on it. Cut out the profile, clean it up on the grinder, and then grind your bevels in. That would be stock removal. To as where a forged knife is, you're taking a 1/4 inch thick of steel and you're pounding it with a hammer
flatten it out.
Yeah, to 1/8, and the profile, you're forging in the profile, you're forging in the bevels, and that's something I used to do a lot of until I got a press. And then once I got the press, I started doing a lot of gomais and sanmais and all that, like laminated layers with a core material. And that you need to keep pretty well centered because there's some non-ferrous metals in some of these alloys that I'm making, these bars.
Yep.
And if I were to forge in bevels to gain width on my material, for say, there's chances are that I could get copper or nickel into my core material, and then I'll have copper running right into my last, secondary bevel, my cutting edge. And you don't want copper on a cutting edge because copper won't hold an edge. So,
And if you know anything about copper, if you try and put copper on any type of food-related instrument, people will go nuts on the internet. For
some reason, yeah, but that's because they were told copper wasn't good for them, but copper is actually good for you. Like,
you know what? And I talked to Brian House because he did those copper
the coffee spoons.
So copper is like, copper in our pipes is great. Copper is like what kept us, and it's like one of the things that has kept the plague away is that the people who worked with copper stayed good. But if you get acid on copper, like if you were cutting a bunch of tomatoes, then you could have your copper leach into the tomato because of the acid, and like not one time, but you could get copper poisoning if you used a copper knife every day.
Well,
which is like a weird thing, and
I've heard that before as well too, and like what I'm thinking is if it would be such a problem, like, why are we still doing it, and why hasn't nobody informed us, like anybody like Dr. Lauren Thomas, Dr. Lauren, and guys like that. Like, why are we still doing nickel? Is the same thing. Like, people are talking about nickel poisoning, and I'm like nickel is everywhere. It's like, sure, you could get a rash from a nickel belt buckle, but it is what it is. I never heard of anyone die from nickel or copper. So go ahead.
I swear there are manufacturers out there that sell copper stuff.
Oh yeah, there's many. You could get copper pans and everything, and pots, and
so how's it any different?
So the copper pans and pots are all lined. So they're copper on the outside and they're lined with tin. As soon as you get through the tin, you have to reline them.
What do they line that tin with? Whatever they line, the non-stick shit is way worse than that copper.
Yeah. Oh no! So the original copper stuff is lined with like actual tin, not non-Paris, not
but
PFAS or anything like that.
They line it with a tin, but then they probably have a non-stick. A lot of people have non-stick pots and pans, so
Teflon
alone.
Oh yeah, Teflon problem. Get that totally. Yeah. The original, and the problem with the original copper stuff, because it's really great for heating up fast and really great for displacing the heat quickly. The problem is they take maintenance. And when the tin wears out, you need to go and get them retinned. And do you know a single person? Do you think you could find a person in the province of New Brunswick who retins copper? I follow a guy on Instagram that's all he does. That's all he does is he retins old copper pots and pans.
Holy shit, huh?
And
I would have never thought.
It's beautiful looking stuff when he's done with it. It looks like I want them, but I also can't afford to retin my shit all the time. So I buy $2 pans and they wear out in a week and I buy another one,
Quick change of subject. Adam, you're in Australia, you said?
Yeah.
All right. Did you see my post I did yesterday about the vibratory tumbler?
No.
No. Okay. So I'm sitting there and I'm smoking a joint and I'm watching the tumbler because I'm tumbling this blade for like an hour. It's like watching paint dry. So and as I'm watching it, I notice like it's tumbling and it's rotating clockwise. And the media and the blade are rotating clockwise, and I was wondering if Australia, if you had a tumbler like that, and you're tumbling shit, is it like the toilet when you flush it? It's counterclockwise.
I would have no idea, and I don't know. Is that toilet thing actually real?
I don't.
Or is that a Simpsons thing?
Well, which way does your toilet spin when you flush it?
But don't worry about a toilet. It doesn't?
It just goes down. It just goes down, no?
There's no swirl to it?
I don't think so.
If you were to use a funnel and you could get it swirling, in the northern hemisphere, it swirls one way if nothing else affects it. And in the southern hemisphere, it naturally wants to swirl the other way. But you can easily introduce swirl one way or the other to counteract that.
But naturally, the natural effect would be one way and then the other place the other. So that's why I was wondering about the tumbler, because it's just vibrating and it's a big bowl. And I got all this media and a blade running in one circle. And, my mind wandered off down under, I guess. And I was like, I wonder if tumblers
you have me curious now.
Run the other way.
You know what?
I feel like toilets don't spin.
Well, what about the sink? What about the sink? You're doing your dishes and you fill the sink with water.
Clockwise.
And then you unclog the water. You unplug the sink, and then it drains itself. Which way?
Clockwise.
Clockwise. So that's like ours. No, wait. You're doing the other way.
Well, it's reversed on the camera.
Yeah, it's reversed on the camera. Okay.
We're all doing the same way. Don't worry, guys. I think you know what. I think you're right. It's a Simpson thing, and anyone who is actually in Australia and has seen both. And has been outside of Australia. You know what? Adam's going to try and come to Maker Camp this year.
I am.
Before you leave, take a video of you shitting in the toilet and then go to Maker Camp and shit there and see what happens.
I'm not doing that.
Adam, what have you been working on this week?
Okay, well, getting back to the heat, I got my powder coating gun. I did my first coat of powder coat, which went well and bad at the same time. So I powder coated some bolts. I don't know how well that camera is going to pick that up. They look more gold on camera than not. So the powder coat I bought, the gold powder coat I bought, is an illusion. So you've got to put a clear over the top. So when you bake it, they come out chrome. And then when you put the clear over the top, they change to gold. I didn't realize that you have to use a polyester chrome, which is also a powder coat. I thought it was any clear. Sorry. Polyester clear. I thought it was any clear. So I went and painted them with like a spray can clear, and it didn't work very well. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Because I actually tested it on, on the bottom of a Coke can, and it worked. But what I worked out was if it's still powder, it'll change to gold, and it didn't work. It didn't actually bake onto the Coke can. It was still powder, so that's why it turned to gold. So when I did it to the bolts, they've just gone all cloudy and stuff. So I've had to order polyester clear powder, and then when that comes in, I'll have to respray the gold, bake it, do the clear.
So you did not check with Stephanie before doing this? No. Yeah, you should definitely check with her. She has reached out and said, yes, Adam should check. She has tons of knowledge to share and questions to answer. And if you come across this instead of wasting all that time and money, but you know what? Well, the best way to learn is to fuck it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Learning from mistakes. Well, the thing is, it's not the fact that like I knew I had to clear it. I just didn't know that you had to do a special clear. And if I read into it more, I would have seen, because when I went to buy the clear, it specifically says underneath it, this clear is for illusion powders, which is what the gold is. So, yeah. But,
weird.
But in saying that, I ended up adding other things to the cart, which I didn't need, but now want anyway. So win-win for me. I got a scoop because when I was putting the powder into the little like catch can that you put on the gun, it went everywhere, and I'm like, I need a better way to put this in. So I'm actually I need to 3D print a funnel that's like big, has a big opening on the bottom, so it sort of gives me somewhere for the powder to go in. But then I also bought a scoop so I can scoop it out of the bag to put it in rather than trying to tip it out of the bag. And then I also bought like heat-proof silicone cones, like they're little cone things that you put in all the holes that you don't want to get powder in on your material that are also heat-proof, so you can put them in the oven.
Okay. Yeah, silicone.
Yeah.
So if your powder comes in a little bag, I have seen like 3D printed things that you can like clamp onto a bag, and then they become like that. You can then have an opening.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. It like clamps on the sides, and it leaves you like a opening in the middle, so you get a narrower bore when you're emptying the bag.
Well, that's the gold powder. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, we can totally see that at all. Not.
There you go. Now you can see.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, we can't really see. You can't see shit, Adam. It's a
illusion
podcast.
chrome gold base.
For all the 3 people who watch on YouTube, yeah, go ahead. But yeah, it's really cool that worked out. That's cool. And it didn't.
I'm excited. I'm
excited. Like you learned something, and it's working. Yeah. It is powder coated, just not the color you want.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. Like the process worked at least.
Yeah.
At least I know that I can powder coat. Like I got it grounded like I need to. The powder stuck. The powder baked. All that worked. It was just the clear over the top. But I will actually message Stephanie because I'm wondering how to do stencils. Like so. On the brake calipers, I'm going to paint black. I wanted to put a stencil down first, powder coat over the top, and then bake and remove the stencil so that there's like rather than having to put vinyl over the top as a stencil after, I wanted it like baked in. And from everything I've looked at, it's apparently really hard to accomplish. So I'll message her and find out about that because the wire rack is like, it was a wire rack with all the bolts in it actually came with the oven. So I just stuck them all through the holes of the wire rack and then put that in. It was actually stuck in there when the powder baked. So I had to get a hammer and like hit it out. So I would think that if I was to put like down heatproof tape, which I've bought as a stencil, that would bake over the top and I wouldn't be able to get it out. So I don't know how to accomplish that. So,
well, if anyone listening has any ideas, you know where to reach us. You can find Adam at something. He changes his name.
Or just join our Discord.
Yeah, there you go. But what have I been up to, you guys ask? Oh, thanks for being so interested in me.
I was waiting for you guys to stop talking and then ask you. I was like, what are you doing?
I don't give a single
we never ask
for that
him
to happen. So my kids have been sick as well as my wife. That's been fun, including like a couple of trips to the doctor. My son is like almost 6, and I think he's been to the doctor like 3 times for a non-routine appointment. So, and 2 of the times were in the last 2 weeks. So it's just been a fun time, and it's nothing like major, but like he picks at his like nails, like as like a nervous thing, or like when he's just like sitting around, and he picked at his toenail so much it bled, and then he continued to pick at it until it was like insanely infected, and we didn't see it in time, and now he's on antibiotics for it. So that's fun. Yeah.
I have 2 quick questions. One, you said not a regular appointment. Do you take your kids to the doctor regularly?
Yeah, for like shots and like when they're born, 6 months later, a year later,
right,
like weigh-ins and stuff like that.
You don't do like a monthly checkup or something.
No, it's like yearly.
No. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sure some people do bring their kids every day or every other month or so.
Oh, fuck yeah. Man.
You'll probably write the first sentence every day.
Every day.
Little bit of a gross story in a way. So we were going You just reminded me because
is this a question? Because I wasn't done.
No, your nail picking story. So I have a bad habit when I'm laying in bed of like picking my toenails with my other toenails.
Okay.
That makes sense. Like I use my big toe to like sort of break off my toenails.
Yeah.
So I was at my
horrible. I don't want to hear about it, but yeah.
I was at my mate's house. We'll go on a Comic-Con the next day, and I was picking my little toe and actually ripped off the nail altogether.
Yep.
Didn't even mean to. I just looked down. I'm like, why is my toe? No, but I mean, like, I didn't even feel it. Like, I looked down. I'm like, why is my toe bleeding? And then realized my nail was missing. And my mate's like, that's not normal. You need to go to the doctor. Like, if you didn't feel it, that's even worse. No.
Had you hit your?
I don't go to the doctor when I actually have a.
Hold on.
No, not at all.
So Australia also has socialized medicine. So Nick, would you have gone to the doctor if you had ripped off your toenail and you didn't feel it?
Probably not.
Yeah,
unless all the other toenails next to it were like nasty as fuck and like gangrene on my feet was obvious, and then I gotta go get this shit checked out. But if I stub my toe somewheres and then maybe like 3 weeks later my toenail falls off and I'm like, oh shit, and it's bleeding, then it'd be like I'd probably relate to that incident. But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah, me either.
Like, even if it just randomly fell off, I'd be like, oh, that's fucked up.
Like, I've drilled into my hand and I still don't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So this is a weird thing. I think that's the thing. If you have socialized medicine, you just don't bother. You're like, I've already paid for it.
It's the worst place to go. Seriously, I ain't gonna go wait for 18 hours to have a cough looked at or something like that. Emergency room. Like, I don't even have a family doctor. Like, we don't. My whole family, my little brother, my parents. Like, there's no family physician for.
No, I don't have no.
Yeah, and my little brother, he's got like cardiac problems. He was born with heart issues and all that shit. So he's had like 4 or 5 open heart surgeries. Now he's left with no doctor to like yearly check him. So you have to they figure things out through the system now. It's different. Like, if I need to see a doctor, I have to apply. I have to call and set a fucking appointment up, and then they're gonna find me a doctor, and then it's gonna be done like this here over Zoom and shit. And it's like,
hey, that's better than it was.
Yeah,
right, I'm going to put that out there because before 2020, you couldn't do that.
But no, you couldn't. And it's kind of sad because people are like, "Oh yeah, free healthcare." I was like, "Man, people are dying in the waiting rooms. There's nothing free."
Well, even when people say it's free, it's not free. I paid for it. I just prepay for it. Yeah.
Yeah. We
anyone who says it's free doesn't understand how the world works.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. They're ignorant to the matter of fact that free healthcare does not exist. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and they ain't gonna fucking do it for free.
Exactly.
Right. But
there's a reason why doctors have stopped accepting.
This got sidetracked big time. So how's your week going?
So the other maker things I did. So I got new garage door openers. I haven't installed them yet. That's been on my list of things to do. So I've got one garage door opener that's from 1970. Oh, it's shit. Like 1/3 horsepower, yellow chain drive, and it is ripped itself off the wall before. And I've screwed it all back together, and I fucking jerry-rigged it to work, and now it needs to be replaced.
And you know what? That 50-year-old garage door opener, you should have just left it there, because that new one you put there is going to last you 3 years, and you're going to be swearing at it.
Yep.
So I did a bunch of research, and I agree this is very possible. But what I did is I went with the one that is. So I went with no extras, no nothing, no Wi-Fi,
no bells.
No bells, no whistles. It is a fucking motor, just like the old one. The old one, the motor still works, but because of all the jankiness of trying to screw it all back together, it doesn't close all the way. I have to go to the door and push it down to get the last 1/8 of an inch. And if you don't do that, then the snow comes in when it's blowing that direction and gets all in my garage, which is just frustrating, right? So I just want a fucking garage door that closes all the way. And yeah, it's possible it'll only last 5 years, but I just bought a no bones about it. It's just a fucking motor that turns. The only thing I don't like about it is instead of a light bulb, it has an LED panel. And I'm like, I can't replace an LED panel. I can replace a light bulb. I've replaced them. I've lived here 12 years. I've replaced both light bulbs. I can never do that again. That's the only gripe I have with it, but fuck it. I never use those lights anyways.
A lot of people tend to not even change a light bulb in a garage door opener when it burns out anyways. Like
mine's been out for so long.
Exactly.
Right. Well, no, and like I don't, and it's actually frustrating that they turn on automatically because they adjust, like they're a different color temperature than all the rest of the lights in my garage. So when I'm trying to film, if I've recently opened or closed the garage door, I have to wait for the light to turn off. Yeah. So if anything, I don't want the light at all. But anyways, that's the fun I have been trying to deal with. I just need like some time with like
no sick kids.
And like sick kids isn't that bad other than like you just can't, like I don't feel like comfortable just going and leaving my wife who's been dealing with the sick kids all day. I don't want to go into the garage when I get home from work and then leave her with the sick kids, because sick kids just aren't fun to be around.
Family duties, man, and that's totally understandable too, you know.
I know. I wish that, you know, I could deal with this in a different way. I wish that I had unlimited time.
That's where I come in differently than most makers out there and stuff like that. Like, like everybody that I've met and seen and dealt with in the knife making world and the maker world, you know, everybody's got a family or a girlfriend, or they're always out and about doing shit and this and that, restaurants, vacations. Like I see it all over Instagram and Facebook, you know. Here I am 4 years in, just pushing at it. No wife, no kids, no girlfriend, you know, going to Blade Show, going to Florida, back here, you know, work till next time. And then, you know, every year I go down to Blade Show and I snowboard in the winter. That's like my less time spent in the shop. And that's my other responsibility is snowboarding. So like, I don't have nothing else. So it's like hard to sometimes like tell people, like when they ask for advice and all that, like if you're a Patreon, you probably heard me say, well, I can't answer this Patreon question because I cannot relate to your question whatsoever. You know, like I am not on the same boat as most makers.
Well, and that's where, so you have, and this kind of comes back to like the thing we were talking about earlier, like the time. When you look back, like the more you know, the more you don't know. But at the same time, you have taken in the time from 2020 when you lost your job and you made your first knife bushcrafting till now, what a normal person would take was probably 4 or 5 times as long.
Yeah, like 20 years. No, it's definitely.
Yeah.
And I've been told that before. Is like my progression as a maker is phenomenal, is what I've been told. Those were the exact words. And I feel it and I see it myself, because I see makers out there that have been there for 8-10 years, and you know they're making good stuff. I ain't judging nobody by their quality of work or whatever. It's not that I'm saying. Is that what I'm saying is they seem to lack the want to progress. They hit a certain spot and they stay there. They're comfortable there. They don't dare step out of that comfort zone, you know. And the only thing I'm looking for is I'm always looking to step outside of that box and differentiate myself from everybody else. Like that's my life story. I've never wanted to be like anybody, so that, you know, reflects in my work as well.
No one with a family is making 150 knives in a year.
No, definitely not. No, don't. Well, and nobody making 150 knives in a year is sleeping a normal night either, right?
Exactly.
So this with thinking about this, I go, it is so frequent that you hear about YouTubers, like April Wilkerson's probably the one that comes to mind the most for me, is people say you've changed. You're not what you used to be, whatever. Because if you look at 5 years ago, what she was doing, maybe it's even more than that now. Because I remember following along with her while she did her maker journey, and she made like a height gauge, you know, like one of those like hang on the wall for measuring your family, right? And now you look at what she makes, I'm like, those are not comparable things, right? And you go, and the reason she's able to do that is because she doesn't That's her job now. Her job is to make things. And if you put in 40 hours a week at a minimum making things, you will progress so much more than your audience who are doing it as a hobby.
See, that's why I like doing a lot of custom work too, and taking all these custom orders, and it allows me to grow as a maker because I got challenges thrown at me, and it allows me to express myself too, and not just always make, and there's nothing wrong with making. I see guys out there making a killing making the same knife, like Brett from Ballman Knife and Tool and his thicker clipper, Knives by Nuge, and all those guys, Thomas Nuge. They're making production knives and they're rocking it. But to me, I want every one of my knives to stand apart from each other, and I'm always aiming to make my next knife better than my last knife. Like, that's my drive. I'm driven to make that next one better than every other one. So,
and I feel like I sometimes get in this predicament as well, and that stops me from starting a new project.
Yeah,
because I don't want to make.
It does get in the way.
Right, yeah, I don't want to get in, like, I get in my own way going, I can't make this project. It's not as good as I should be able to make.
It's like when I should be doing orders, but I'm making one-ofs because I feel like I need to express myself. It's like, so I'm going to make this crazy bar of steel and make 3 knives out of it and put all the other orders aside.
So when I was in high school, I used to race remote control cars, and a part of remote control cars, you got these little Lexan bodies, and you paint them. You paint them on the inside, and you can use like a spray can, or you can use like a airbrush. And so I had an airbrush, and I tried to start a business airbrushing remote control car bodies to like fund my little remote control car racing hobby.
Yeah.
And the big, I would often have like clients lined up needing their stuff done, and I'd be working on my own stuff. And when that started happening, I said, I don't want to, this isn't my business. It is a hobby I enjoy, clearly, because I want to do my own thing. Right.
Yep.
And I feel like I want to be like an artist, not a like production. And there's nothing wrong. There's lots of people who do production. They do great stuff and they get like things, but I want to be an artist. I want to be like, I want to do what I want to do, and I hope someone buys it. As opposed to someone else comes in and says, this is what you want. I want you to make this. I don't mind. Like, I want you to like, I always liked like, here's a canvas, here's an idea, go for it. Like, here's some constrictions, not like, I need you to make a Stars and Stripes American flag because I had some of those, and you're like, here's a picture, make it exactly like this, and if it's not exactly like this, I'm going to be really mad. I fucking hated those guys because it's really frustrating because it's like, well, that's not me. That's not my style.
No, exactly.
I feel like I'm very similar like that, like with the bikes and stuff. Like, I don't necessarily want to not take commission orders, but I also want to have like a bit of freelance in a way. Like, you look at, say, like West Coast Customs, for instance, right? Someone will come in and say, this is what I want, roughly, and then they come up with the design and confirm, you're happy with this design, and then they do it. So they have a bit of like they have an input as well. Whereas if someone just came up and said, I want this exactly, I don't think I'd be interested.
It's kind of like when I'm getting orders, like people reach out to me, like I've never posted a knife with any antler material whatsoever, right, for a handle. And I've turned away so many of these sales because it's not me, and it's like a lot of other artists out there too. Like, you go see a tattoo artist and you ask them to do this fancy portrait of your dog that just passed away. But this tattoo artist has done old school traditional tattoos their whole life. They're going to say no. Right. They're not going to do that portrait. Those are the shitty portraits you see in memes, right? So, like,
I was going to say, if they say yes, it's going to look like shit.
Yeah, that tattoo artist should have said no. So that's how I see it, and that's what I use for comparison too. Is like, I'm not a knife maker. I am an artist that makes knives, and most of my customers, like you were saying earlier, Grant, give me the permission to do me. they want me to do me, and then I have to ask them. Like, they give me like, I want this knife. I was like, okay, exactly the same steel. You know, I have to explain to most of them that there's different steels and whatever, different handle materials. You know, basic prices, and then all that. And so when it comes down to like, well, I just want a blade like that, you know, and if yeah, that steel's okay, and then do your thing. I was like, well, give me a color at least, you know, so I could make that handle something you'll like. You know, because if it were up to me, I'd put green in every fucking handle I make, you know, and I learned that once not to do that. Is I had a knife that had been murdered out, and black G10, black micarta pins, blackened, etched out, you know. I had 2 pins in the back of, like, my handle had a square back to it, and there was 2 quarter-inch pins there, and I put a green one in the top of a corner pin, and I showed the guy, like, I was like, doesn't that look so fucking good, dude, that little extra green? And he's like, dude, I fucking hate green. And I was like, oh. I was like, you hate green? He's like, yeah, I fucking hate green. It's not my favorite color. I don't want that there. And I was like, okay, I'll take care of that, bud. And then I had like a 5-minute breakdown, and I was like, I can't destroy this handle. So like, I have to be really, really precise at what I'm going to try here. And that was to like center punch a 1/4-inch pin that's in a knife handle, and then drill that out with a 1/8 bit, and then go with the 1/4-inch bit, and hopefully it doesn't fuck my hole in the scale up. So when I put the other pin in there, I don't have a ring around my pin, you know. So that worked out, but you know, I learned there to at least confirm colors and shit like that. Like, there's something you hate.
Well, and I can understand. Like, I like the color orange. I don't know if anyone's noticed. And I know there's people out there who like the color orange even more than me. But there's people who hate the color orange.
Yeah.
I painted my front door orange in my house, and I painted the shutters on my window orange. And there's people who go like, why would you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I like it. Like, oh, that's horrible. Like, you should paint it some house. Like, right. I'm like, it's my house, so go fuck yourself. And that's how I live my life. But I understand. Like, I also had a comment. Like, there was someone who down the street painted their door like teal green, teal blue, teal greenish blue. And I was like talking with a neighbor, just like walking my dog. Oh, I can't believe they did that. And I was like, why? Oh, it's so ugly. Why would they do that? And I was like, I don't know. It's their house. Like, that's what I said to them. And she was like, nah, you know, like, old lady. You know, nothing better to do than complaining about the color of people's doors. But I was just like, I get if I'm going to put my house up for sale, I'm painting over that orange immediately.
Yeah, that might not.
My house is not right. I'm not going up for sale with an orange house. Yeah. That is silly, because if I want to try and sell something to the mass market, you want to like make it marketable to the masses, right?
Absolutely.
And if it's something like a house, which is like a stupid amount of money, you need to do that. Like, if you were to put a bunch of knives up for sale and you had like 20 knives up for sale, you wouldn't do 20 green knives, because that would be stupid.
If it was up to me, I would definitely. But I wouldn't. But then you would
minimize your chances of selling them all.
Exactly.
You might have 5 green knives, and you say, I love the fucking color green. I hope you do too. You're not going to make them all green.
You say that, and I did a batch of folders at one time, and I had 10 folders, and out of 10 folders, there's 8 black and green folders. Everybody wanted fucking black and green. Like, seriously. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I got so bored making those 8 knives. Like, I was anxious to get to the last 2 that weren't black and green. You know, I was like, fuck this shit. You know,
right.
I even changed up some of the handle material on the black and greens. Like, instead of black G10, I was putting like black micarta, and then one was carbon fiber. And so they're black and green, just different materials, just to mentally convince myself to make them and be okay with it, you know?
Yeah. But so that's the whole, like, you got to think about, if you're trying to sell it, you need to think about your customer. If you're trying to be an artist, you need to do what you think is right. And that's the big difference between if I were to make something and put it up for sale, it's whatever I want. And if I were to make something for a customer, it's for whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like when they're asking me for Hulus, have you ever made a Hulu? I was like, no. A few people have asked me, and then they quite get the message right there. It's like, I've never made one, but quite a few people have asked me. So it's like Hulus, I don't see as me representing myself as an artist. Like I'm not expressing myself, and that's not my thing. Like, sure, one day I'm going to make one, but that's one day where I'm going to be sitting in the shop bored, and I throw myself a challenge and be like, I'm going to make a Hulu today, and then I'm going to make it. You know, that's kind of how I started with the friction folders. I was like, I'm going to make something different. And I did a friction folder, and then people started ordering them. And I'm not that fond of making them, to be honest with you. They're like finesse work, and they're small pieces and a lot of pieces and a lot of time to make. And instead of telling people that I don't make those, I just kind of like threw a fuck you price out there, and they still jump on them. Like I got 5 more folders on order right now. And I even had to step it up to
guess
one
what?
sale. Excuse me?
That fuck you price was not the fuck you price.
Yeah, it obviously wasn't higher enough because like they're paying $475 for a fucking friction folder. You know, like I appreciate it and I love it and it's a piece of art, that's for sure. You know, I sold a couple of Damascus for $600. You know, so
how long does it take you to make one?
If I were to sit there and make one, I got about like 3 regular work days, like say 3 10-hour work days. I'll call it 10-hour work day, but that's not what I usually do. But I'd probably get like 30 hours into a knife like that.
Right. That seems like they're a pretty good deal at that price then.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's why like I could sell them if I would ask the price that I want for them. Like I'm asking more, if not, for $475, I could make you a 7-inch chef knife out of basic stainless steel. You know, $500 shipped. But you're asking me to make you this little friction folder, and I'm charging you $500 shipped for this. You know, a way smaller knife. It's just there's way more work into it, and I would charge $600, and probably some people would buy them. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't want to take advantage of that either and be that asshole that's going to keep on upping a fuck you price, you know, because I upped it more than once. Like I was doing them for $275 first run, and I was like, oh shit, this is way too low. And then I did $350, and then I was like, I don't enjoy this that much. And then orders still kept coming in, so I was like $475, and everybody's like, yeah, okay.
But that's so. Regardless of whether or not you think it's the FU price, that's a good way to come up with a price.
Yeah.
You keep raising the price until you stop getting more order. Like you can come back down too, but like until you stop getting orders, you got to figure out what the price is that people
the more orders I'm going to get, the more I'm going to hate making them, the higher the prices are going to get. That's pretty much what seems to be the trend, you know? So
yeah.
It's not that I hate making them. It's just time consuming, and it's not what I'm wanting to do, really, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. And that was the same. That was my problem with our airbrushing, is that people would be getting me to do these complex things that took a lot of time. And like, if anyone out there's ever airbrushed something, like you airbrush it, then you got to fucking walk away, clean your airbrush, wait for that paint to dry, come back with the next color, right? Like, it's not a quick, snappy thing. Like, if you try and come back too soon, you fuck up that layer, and there's nothing you can do.
Right? You can't paint over the top,
right? And then when you're doing the clear plastic body, you're doing it from the inside. Yeah. There's no mistakes. You can't make any mistakes, right? Because you can't clean it up. It's done. Nope. You can't paint over it. Whatever you've done is done.
Yep. I
learned very quickly how fucking easy it is to make a little mistake.
It's weird because you mask backwards. So I've done a couple of them, and I remember my first one, I fucked it up, and I'm like, well, I guess it's stuck like that now.
Yeah,
I'm not going through the process of stripping it out and trying to redo it. And
you can't. There's nothing you can do. There's literally nothing. Anything you do will cloud the Lexan.
Exactly.
So that you can't see it. Yeah.
I've had moments where I fucked up like final finishes on knives and shit, and like freak out and be like, "Motherfucker! Like, why does this happen?" Like an 80, like I'm sanding the handle, okay, like I'm shaping the handle with like 100 grit or whatever, 120 grit. You know, this blade has got like a 600 grit finish on it, and it's etched and everything, and polished, and there's no grind lines or scratches in it whatsoever. And I'm trying to shape the handle, and I run off the front of the handle, and I jab it into my blade.
Yep.
And I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" It's like I can't say that's good enough and leave it like that. It's a Damascus blade, right? And I've done stupid things sometimes to fix problems similar to that one. It's like, nobody will notice that, And I'm not proud of those moments, It's like, oh, I won't see that from my house because I am so not that guy. Like, I take pride in my work, and like, I was a construction worker, drywaller, framer, a finish worker. I'd done hardwood stairways, floors, and I put a lot of pride into my work. And so it's just, it sucks sometimes when you're putting something out that is above standards, but not your standards. It's good enough for the people in the market, but they will never notice that little fucking thing that bugs the shit out of you, so.
But that's something that is difficult because every little problem.
Oh yeah. Every little whatever.
Right. Like, and if you had gotten that knife, you may not even see it.
Exactly.
If someone else had made it, you may not even see it.
Yeah. I don't know about that though. Speaking for myself personally, I have like a hawk's eye when it comes to detail on anything, period. Like, I have a friend who's a woodworker. He does a lot of wood turning, and he does a lot of river tables, and like he has his own business, everything. Bucksun Woodworking. Check him out on Instagram. He doesn't post too often. I think he posts more to Facebook. But he like sometimes, and he's a really fine woodworker. Like I said, this kid's got fucking mad skills. And when I walk in the shop and he's got something in like in the spray booth and the paint booth or whatever, like, or just about prepping, like ready to bring to the paint booth, like, and I walk around it, he knows I'm gonna find something that caught my eye and be like, "Oh, missed that there, bud," because that's me. I walk into the house and I'm like looking at corners everywhere on a new house, cabinets and shit. Like, I have OCD, is what it is, So
you just have like detail. It's what I'll bet you have like a if you're anything like me, you have this like ability to catch all these errors, but also like weirdly, if anything like me, you can also like ignore stuff so easily.
Yeah.
Like the mess, and no offense to you, but there's like a mess behind you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's clearly like, if you had real OCD, like you probably would like be cleaning that up constantly. But you're like, no, I can deal with that. Right.
Yeah,
but
my shop
like
is totally cluttered.
A project can never be perfect enough.
I can't even sit down at a dinner table and have a cabinet door that's got a 3-inch crack from being closed and sit down and eat in peace. I have to get up and go close that cabinet because somebody didn't close it right. That's how OCD I am,
I got that problem too. My wife hates it.
Oh, dude, it's fucking annoying. Like,
it was in my
I think
wedding
it's from being brought up. Like, we were brought up that way, I think is what it is. Because like the old folks, like my parents, like I was told you weren't brought up on a farm. Close your fucking doors, close your cabinets, close this, So every time I'm around somebody else that's not familiar with me and I'm invited somewheres or whatever, like I walk into somebody's house, never been there for say, and they invite me into their kitchen and I see cabinet door open, I'll walk by it and close it.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah, it's that bad.
I was at my son's school.
Don't have kids then.
Yeah, I was at my son's school and they had like a little play kitchen.
Yeah.
And the door wasn't quite closed. So I went up to like close it and it wouldn't close. So I open it up and I pull up my Swiss Army knife and I tighten up all the screws so that it fucking closes. And I'm like, I've only been here like 30 minutes and I've already fixed this like problem, but I couldn't leave it. I was like, no, I can't just leave this. Right. And I was just like, this is like, I have a problem. No, but I have a problem. I should be able
we have a problem, but we like to solve problems, except for our own problems.
Well, you know who? Oh, go ahead, Adam.
Just quickly, Nick, your cupboard's open behind you.
No, it's not. Impossible. No, it's not. If anything, there's a snowboard behind me right there.
Yeah,
that's about it. And then there's another one right there. There's a few snowboards.
Just trying to get your paranoia.
Yeah, no, don't get me going. I'm going to look over and see if everything's closed. Like, I just looked at my 3D printer door to see if it was closed.
You know what's the worst is you say these, like, and I've had the same problem happen to me. I say these things. I'll tell my wife, like, oh, it's like, it frustrates me when I see her. And then, like, she'll catch me, like, 10 minutes later that I didn't, like, doing something where I'm like, I don't understand. How did I even do it? And I only did it because, like, my mind was so concentrated on, like, telling her how to do it right. I don't know. Anyways, I want to take this opportunity. I had a good segue, but it's gone now. So I just want to thank our Patreon supporters, especially the F-Clamp level people. Scott from Daddy Yourself DIY, Joe Herdina, David Wood from DW Wood Builds, Brad from I'm Gonna Make, and Chad from Chad's Custom Creations, and everyone else who supports us at Patreon. We only read off the top couple of names, but everyone else, I really want to say thank you so much for supporting us. If you feel like you got $1's worth out of this episode, head on over to patreon.com/clamp and support us that way. That will get you access to the after show that we're going to be talking with Nick here a little bit more. And also you'll get a fun little keychain like these ones I've been working on. If you're watching the YouTube video, you can see them, but no one actually watches that. And the other thing is you get entered into the Gnome Hammer draw. So everyone who is at Patreon on ours gets access to that draw, and you get one entry. And if you want more entries because you want his hammer of the month, head on over to the Gnome Hammer Patreon. You can get more there. And now, CLAMPmendations.
CLAMPmendations! You know, there's a lot to recommend out there, but if I were to choose one, I'm going to, because there's a lot of makers out there that are in the knife making field, if you want to put it that way. And I see a lot of people out there in the forums asking about where to get certain things. And there's my boy Lawrence. That's pretty much, my recommendation right there. Maritime Knife Supply ships to the States and Canada, and he will literally get you what you need if he doesn't have it. So, I wouldn't recommend anybody else because the service through Lawrence is just amazing, and he takes care of his people. He'll take care of you.
I've ordered from Lawrence before, and I met him at Maker Camp. Yep. He's a
great lad. I've hung out with him quite a few times, twice in Nova Scotia and twice at Blade Show. And he's a great man, really, really good man.
Yeah.
I appreciate him.
Well,
so that's my recommendation.
If, Lawrence, you want to sponsor us like you sponsor some of the other shows. But that's a good one. Adam, what are you recommending everyone check out this week?
Okay, I'm going to recommend the book I'm currently reading, which is called Everyone on This Train is a Suspect. This book is so weird, but also really intriguing. So we have a train in Australia called the Garn, which goes, it takes 4 days to go through the desert and everything, and it's 30-something carriages long. So you pretty much, you sleep on it for the full day. It's like a moving hotel in a way. And it stops places, you get off, go on trips, like a cruise, but on land. So this story is written by the writer is writing it. So he's on a trip with other writers. They're doing some promotion thing, but he's telling his story of writing the book. But it's
while
not
he's writing the book.
While he's writing the book, but he has a different name in the book, so it's really weird, but it's interesting. Essentially, it's a murder mystery. Someone dies, and you got to try to work out who it is. But it's so interesting. He goes, I don't think so. It's actually a sequel because he talks about the sequel and I've got to get number one. Number one is everyone in my family has killed someone, which apparently is also a murder mystery. But I'm assuming it's written the same way, and he references it in the book. He's like, my first book, everyone it's weird. It's such a weird concept of how to write a book, but yeah, it's cool. I'm about halfway through.
Well, this sounds like a fun book.
I can't say I've ever read a book in my life.
I'm trying to get back into it.
Not even in school. Like, they couldn't get me to read a book to save my life.
Really?
Oh no! Like, if we had resumes to do on a book or whatever, like, I'd read the first like paragraph or two, like in a chapter or two, and then I'd skip to the back of the book and read like the resume of the book, and then try to put that into like a few paragraphs and content the teacher, and it never worked. So yeah, I hated reading. I'm dyslexic, so it's kind of hard for me to read. So I never really read a full book. Can't say I have.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this one might be the one to bring.
It sounds interesting.
Not.
Like, I'm thinking, like, psychology-wise, like the guy's mind. Writing a book about writing a book on a train while you're sitting on that train, but as a different person.
And then
like that's wild.
So like his publisher shows up when he's waiting for the train, and she's asking him where his book is that he's been promising for ages. And he's like trying to think of how to write a fiction book because he's never done it before. And then a murder happens, which gives him his story to write the book. So like, it's so weird. Yeah.
The way it plays out is pretty fucking wild. Yeah, no, that sounds interesting, but like if there was a movie, I'd watch it for sure. That's why I asked.
All right. Well, my recommendation is not going to be quite as interesting as this book, but so recently, Matthias Wandel, who is also a maritime Canadian now, he's in Fredericton actually, but
that's not far
he used
from
to be he used to be in Ottawa, but you might know him, Wood Gears. He used to work at BlackBerry, but he's got a pretty big channel. He's got like almost 2 million subscribers. He was hacked. And they took over his YouTube channel. And the interesting part about it is obviously he's big enough that he was able to get the attention of Google employees and get his channel back. But I got hacked in the same way as him, in that I had he like opened up a link or a program, and they were from that able to get a bunch of like his cookies and stuff and log into his channel and turn off his like two-factor authentication. And he opened like a screensaver. If you open up a thing that's like a SRC, a screensaver, like .src, it's an executable, and it can run and basically you install a virus on your computer, and then they have access to your computer. He obviously, like I did, disconnected from the internet, formatted and all that. But it was interesting seeing his kind of like timeline. So he had it where he got the notification in his email that someone had changed his phone number, and then someone had turned off two-factor authentication, and then someone had changed his password. I got the change of phone number and immediately took action. He didn't notice it. So he lost out on that ability to change it. So because I happened to notice it, I battled my hackers changing the password like every 30 seconds for 5 minutes. I was like, I want to say like battling, but it was literally that. I was changing my password and they were rechanging it. I was deleting their phone number and putting back my phone number and doing all this. And I was able to like stave off the hacking, whereas he got completely hacked. They took down his thing. They took off 90% of his videos and put up like crypto bullshit.
I heard House talk about that before on a podcast before I jumped in. I think they had talked.
Yeah, people have been doing it forever, and it's so
crypto.
The way he got it is somebody emailed him and said, "I'd like to sponsor your podcast," and obviously, or not your podcast, your YouTube channel. This is what we're offering. This is the amount of money, and it seemed like a good, like a worthwhile time. That's what happened with me. It was like $1,000. His was $6,000, which when I look back, $1,000 from my 1,000 subscribers, and he's getting offered $6,000 for his almost 2 million. I go, I should have known better. And he said for 6,000, I should have known better. And I went, oh fuck, that doesn't seem like advertising really worth it. But anyways,
yeah, I thought advertising was more like 10 grand.
His was 6,000. But anyway, and he thought that was too good to be true. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, he thought that number was too high, but he still clicked on it.
Sorry. I don't know if it's me being paranoid, but like earlier I was like on my phone and I didn't even click anything, but like my Facebook acted up weirdly, like the app, and like it was just acting really sus, and it like disconnected me a couple times and it rebooted, and it was like, a bug, and I was like, why is there a bug all of a sudden on my Facebook? There's no updates that have been done, nothing. So right there, first thing I thought was like, go change your passwords. So like, just because my phone like bugged out and Facebook bugged out or whatever the app bugged, right, I got paranoid and changed my passwords because I don't want a chance having to deal with any of that bullshit. Like,
right. So I had the other day is I actually had someone. So if you go to like Facebook and you type in someone's email address,
yep,
and then you try and do forgot password, it'll bring their 2-factor authentication and try and text them or whatever you've set up. And if you go like, oh, try a different way because I don't have my phone, try a different way, it'll send an email to their email with a code.
They already have the email.
So they know your email and they're hoping that you haven't changed your email address since whatever like was leaked. So I've had a lot of times I've had like, this website that you were on was compromised. You should change your passwords, right? I've had that a bunch of times. Like I've had my, I can't remember what it was. Like my investment portfolio was compromised. So now I've got like free credit monitoring for a year, right? I've had a bunch of different ones compromised where they're like, you need to change all your passwords. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ again. Right. So it's like frustrating because like you get to a point where you're like, I can't remember any of my goddamn passwords.
Yep.
But all that to say, there were legit emails from Facebook, but someone was trying to hack my Facebook, and Facebook's the only thing that's really paying me right now. So it was scary.
Yeah, that's why I kind of freaked out too. Like I get paranoid about anything that happens, like suspicious links or anything. It's like, no, I'm not even clicking that. Or I'll ask somebody's like, is this legit? And they're like, yeah, it's a good video. I was like, what's my favorite color? And they're like, are you serious? I was like, what's my fucking favorite color? If you know, I'll watch it. If you don't know, I ain't fucking clicking it.
Yeah, man.
So, no.
Well,
I've messed around. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've messed around so much myself with computers, and I know like what can be done and what's not good to do. And I've done my fair share of messing around with shit like that back like from dial-up days and shit, like all the way to like maybe about 18 years ago or so. And so like I know the risks of these security vulnerabilities and all that, and I'm very aware of them. And it's scary. It's scary what these people could run away with, like all the information and all that. Like
the big thing is most of the time that it's not like the app that's unsecure or anything. It's almost always you install something stupidly or you give your password away to someone.
Yep.
Right. Or use the same password for your banking as you use for your, porn or whatever, right? Like you probably shouldn't do that.
Where you wouldn't want to use the same password, not porn sites. Like make a new password, bud.
This is why I refuse to log into anything via Facebook. Like, when you go to log in and it's like, log in via Facebook. Never.
Yeah, you say that, and I do that a lot just because I'm like, I want to skip the line type thing.
It's like,
okay, I'll just sign in.
I've been thinking a lot about that since this happened, is because either Facebook was getting hacked and my Google tried to get hacked, like then they'd have access to all those connected apps, right? Yeah. If they could get into my Google account, they can get into like a bunch of other websites that I'm connected. Anyways, normally at this point we'd go to the Ask Us Anything by Jessie. She's not here this week, so we're gonna skip it. Also because we're running a little late. So I just want to say, thank you to TF Turning for the theme song. Tim has reached out to us. We're going to have a new theme song soon. Might be Taylor Swift inspired. We don't know. I want to thank Nick for coming on. Why don't you tell everyone the best places to find you, Nick?
You could find me all over Instagram and Facebook for sure. And, just feel free to reach out on Facebook at Pickle Cutters. Cutters is with a K, double T-E-R-Z. So, and
Z.
on Instagram, a Z, yeah.
Not
no
a
S
Z?
there. Zed. I'm actually American, dude. I'm English. Like I was born in the States, and my mom's English speaking, and I was brought up English. So, but a lot of
English
people
is like you got three people here that say, or two people say Zed, right? Like, and we're both English. Like, I don't understand. Zed's not French. Okay.
Yeah. I don't even know why people say Zed. Like they teach you it in school, and like I always had a hard time getting there because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm dyslexic, so I can't even say my alphabet, and I never got to Z. So I never said Zed. Period. So.
There you go. That explains it better.
Yeah, but Pickle Cutters with a Z and a K, and on Instagram it's pickle_cutters. So you can find me at those two places, and books are always open for now, unless I pick up that 100-piece order from that barbecue place. So, then I might have to shut down a bit. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
We'll have those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. If you want to find, anytime you want to come back. If you want to find Adam and I, you can find us at Clampcast, and Jesse's also there when she is around. You just go searching for the Clamp Podcast or Clampcast on all the usual social media places. And now we're going to head in to the after show.